Hey everybody, welcome to Tuesday. This isn't the video from Monday again. I'm gonna push it to next Monday, maybe. I don't know. This poor video. I don't think it dates. Maybe. Anyway, there was some good faith concerns that came out of yesterday's video, and so I decided it was worth bumping that video to talk about this. Even though some of the comments were very strongly worded and could be dismissed as too strident, I think the fear underlying them is valid and deserves to be unpacked. I understand why people are very afraid of cancel culture. I think it's very important to separate cancel culture from online dog piles, from abuse or harassment campaigns, from, accountability and consequences for bad behavior, right? The problem is how you combat one can possibly make another worse. So I've actually written down the definitions that I understand. So I'm not saying this is the official definition. I'm saying this is what I'm using for the purpose of this. So if you say that's not what cancel culture means or that's not what a dog pile is, I'm going to ignore your comment, okay? Because I'm self-defining. These are the definitions we're using for the purposes of this video, okay? Words mean things. When someone takes the time to say, this is how I'm using this term, it is an absolute waste of time to it. That's not what it means. It's self-defining, okay? Somebody bothered to define the term they're using. And again, this is just for, these things are serious. Let's try to find solutions together, okay? So if you like this kind of thing, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K. The other reason I self-define is so that, it's an accountability thing too, right? That I'm going to tell you what a word means so I'm not just pulling that's not what I meant when I get in trouble for something, right? Like blue is not red. Certain terms mean things. Blue, I think I accidentally quoted a Tori Amos lyric there. Blue isn't red, everybody knows this. Now it's going to drive me crazy what song's that from, but I'll figure it out. Like, guess I wasn't deeper than I thought I was. Strange. That's the song. Okay. Probably apropos for me. So, for me, I define cancel culture, okay, or cancellations as large-scale attempts to cancel or deplatform someone due to a loss of ratings, traffic, banning, or firing. It is an ostracization or thrusting out, make that dirty, of social or professional circles. It is a meaningful shunning, right? And this is where I draw the line, because people, some of the strident comments were cancellation is always wrong. Well, there has to be some reasons where firing is warranted, right? If somebody does something harmful, if somebody does something bad, if somebody does something criminal, there are consequences for that behavior, right? So and when it's not criminal, where the line is, whether it's okay or not okay, it's highly subjective. So the real issue with cancellation, because sometimes it is warranted, right? Like if somebody's outed as a pedophile, for instance, just to go something we can all kind of agree with, right? They shouldn't be able to continue to host a kids show, right? Sometimes it's warranted. The question with cancel culture is, are expectations for behavior set too high? That example I gave is, well, everybody's of course not. But then we get into, should professional athletes be able to just express political opinions that have nothing to do with their play on the field? Like, should Colin Kaepernick have been, cut because he knelt during the national anthem? That's dicier, right? Some people would say you're offending our fans, and people are like, too bad, be offended. But if you offend too many people, there's business decisions. Now, personally, I think the NFL made too much of the fan offense thing. I think they were trying to make an example out of the guy, and I think it backfired. But that's just an example of, one where everybody's like, no, of course that's terrible, right? And one where there's two sides and highly, highly subjective, right? Because you get into instead of it being, a good versus bad decision, it's, well, one on the bad side, you're stifling someone's expression, right? Athletes are role models. They should be able to advocate for social causes they believe in. On the other side, yeah, you don't want to overly offend paying customers. Like I said, I come down on the side of freedom of expression. But again, I'm not the business owners making the decision. Online dogpiling is a different thing. Online dogpiling is something that if you are on the internet and you make content on the internet, it is something that is going to happen to you sooner or later. For someone like me that does weigh into some controversial topics, it happens more often sooner. I've been dogpiled so many times, and it's always over dumb crap, right? Like, it's over me saying in Mortal Kombat 11, I didn't like that Jax ended slavery of Jax eliminated, wiped out, erased from the historical timeline slavery of black people by enslaving everybody, because every time someone did something he didn't like, he went back and changed the timeline, thus taking away everyone's free will, right? People accused me of being pro-slavery and a racist for that. And then one of the Young Turks, Hassan Piker, called me a white feminist and went on and trashed me and sped up the video to make me look crazy. Now, is this a cancellation? No, it's not like what happened to me in Gamergate, where I was blacklisted from all the high-profile games journalism sites after I decided to try to engage with people who were calling me a whole bunch of names because I was a games journalist and therefore the enemy. And, people, the editor at Polygon said, well, if you're going to respond to them, untag me. Didn't give a shit that I was getting dogpiled, right? Just leave me out of it. And I decided to talk to people because, silly me, I thought it was my job as a journalist to talk to people even when I didn't agree with their views, even when I thought they were behaving badly. When I was in music journalism, I interviewed a lot of, rock musicians who had really severe, addiction problems, who got them into trouble with the law. I interviewed gangster rappers who had rap sheets a mile long. Should I have not gotten their side of things because some people thought they were bad people or a criminal element or a junkie, No, it's my job to try to understand the other side. The gaming journalism industry did not agree. Shunned, blacklisted, put on block lists that apparently Lindsay Ellis, among others, used, including one of the cast members of the new All Creatures Great and Small. I don't know why the guy who plays Siegfried on All Creatures Great and Small uses a Gamergate block list, but that thing got everywhere, man. It was weird. But I'm sure you can see the difference between something that was mildly annoying for a few days. And yes, there are still people out there who think I'm racist. It's weird. There are more people out there who think I'm racist from that than the people who think I am transphobic because of other equally stupid things. Maybe it's because I've had more opportunities to actively show I'm not transphobic, but, there's a big difference between Hassan Piker taking a shot at me, which was bad faith and disingenuous. But he rapidly figured out I was going to push back, and he blocked me too, even though he started it. There's a big difference in that really has no long-term negative impacts, not really, right? And something that actually does result in me being ostracized from professional circles. Big difference, right? One could claim, as people did in the comment section, that Hassan Piker was trying to create a cancellation, get some scalps, so to speak, so that his clout goes up. He shows that he has power. He's got influencer. But it didn't work. And I have to see things another way from me, who is all, this has all happened before. This will all happen again. It's already happened. I can't be, it's much harder to be afraid of something that has already happened and you've survived than, even though it continues to negatively affect me. Life goes on, right? Is it irritating? Yeah. Does it feel profoundly unfair? Sure. Is it frightening? No, because it's already happened. I get why people who see it happen to other people and are terrified it's going to happen to them. That's fear. That's a very different thing. And that's why I want to talk about this. I hear you. But online dogpiling doesn't have to turn into a cancellation. Sometimes you do have to stick to your principles, right? I had to. I ironically could not forsake my journalistic ethics to remain a games journalist. It was too ingrained. I believe in it too strongly. I believe that as a journalist, it is not your place to judge while you are reporting. When you are reporting facts. When you are doing op-ed, well, then you can judge all you want, but you gotta make sure those streams are separate, right? So you know what you're doing when. Solid reporting is really important for good op-ed, because someday we will get back to a place where we may have different opinions, but we're not dealing with completely different sets of facts, right? Now, if somebody powerful, if a particular group of people, which is what happened to me, there was a whole whisper network, there were people in chats, there were people trashing my name, and the word got out that I was persona non grata, shunner. Is there any way to prevent that? Not really, right? You can do everything right and have that still happen to you, because bullies are bullies. And that's where we get to abuse or harassment campaigns. And, well, you can't stop cancel culture and people who dissect the cancellation of somebody as something that's preventable. That's for other people to do. You cannot stop the occasional or more than occasional online dogpile. You can't. And truthfully, if you learn how to handle them properly, they're really not that big a deal. Abuse or harassment campaigns are completely different. Abuse is not just criticism. And this is something that I think gets blurred a lot. I know a lot of you guys know that abuse is not just criticism. This is something I have seen a lot of people go leaps and bounds on this channel since I started. I remember some of y'all little shitlords when you first started commenting, it was all rah, and you realize that you got better results when you framed your criticism as criticisms and not as attacks and not as abuse. And I'm proud of you for that. Like, some people don't get that. They're just too angry. But, I've seen, and to me, that is the difference between a person who is merely angry and expressing themselves poorly, which we need to provide space for, right? That's super important. That's the difference between somebody who's just a bad faith actor who is abusive and engaging in a harassment campaign, right? If you say to somebody, look, I need you to dial this one down a lot so I can hear what you're actually trying to tell me, and they just keep flinging abuse, well, you gave them a chance, right? And I really do think that it is a very bad idea to just cast off every person who is angry at you as a harasser, because anger is there for a reason. You guys know I think anger is there for a reason, right? Abuse and harassment campaigns are bad faith attempts to ruin someone or false or exaggerated pretenses. I want to repeat that again, okay? Abuse and harassment campaigns are bad faith attempts to ruin someone on false or exaggerated pretenses. Now, why? Well, if someone has abused people themselves, right? Say somebody, beats somebody up at an event, and someone says, hey, she beat me up in an event, and people don't believe them at first. What? Are they supposed to just shut up about an assault because, of battery because nobody believed them the first time? No, of course not. If someone is telling a truth, that's not abuse. That's saying I was abused. And this is one of the things that leads into cancel culture. The issue with these highly subjective, large-scale attempts to shun someone, because it's all based on social capital, the true victims tend to be the ones that are shunned. The bullies, the effective abusers, the bad faith actors, they just hang on. Because I find in toxic professional circles and toxic social circles, the bad faith people all sort of, they cling together because they don't want to call each other out until they've got nobody left to scapegoat anymore. And then the whole thing implodes, right? And people, we never knew. And it's all a bunch of horse shit. But those harassment campaigns are things that we can do something about. Problem is that the most effective solution to stopping a legitimate harassment campaign is what some people consider cancel culture, right? Like, somebody's lying about you, you can block them, right? Somebody's spreading lies about you, you have the right to get them to stop. That is defamation. That is not canceling someone. That is not censoring someone. Lies may be protected speech in U.S. politics, but what is legal and what is moral and what is tolerable are not the same standard, right? If someone is unfairly destroying your reputation, you have the right in a just world to do something about that. And this is my issue with people saying that no cancellation is okay. No matter who it is, I don't care. No one should be canceled. And this is when we go into the idea of when is it a cancellation? When is it appropriate punishment for bad faith actors, right? When is it a bad person getting what they deserve? And when is it a cancellation? And that's why I think really the issue is that expectations for behavior on the internet are both too high and too low at the same time. They are all over the place. There is too much. It's okay when we do it. There is not enough tolerance for mistakes, and too much desire to just like erase someone, to cancel them, to somehow feel like you're doing something by wiping out this one person, by making this one person hurt. I mean, the whole mob mentality behind cancellations. Personally, I think cancellation is slang that I first saw on Black Twitter. Don't ask what I'm doing on Black Twitter. It's my music interests, okay? But you know, when I first saw it, it was sort of an observation, just like, well, they're canceled. Almost tongue-in-cheek, the fact that it became a thing that people see as this very scary thing. You know, Lindsay Ellis in the back end of the video talks about how all her friends are afraid of being canceled. And I think that speaks to something much deeper, and speaks to the fact that people in general just want way too much certainty and control over things you really can't control. In life, you will get betrayed. You will get unfairly shunned. You will get unfairly ostracized. A lot of people in gaming are terrified of ostracization of this sort because they were bullied as kids. They were shunned as kids for being nerds. There's a lot of trauma from that. And so it's not, you know, it's a trauma response. And I don't want anybody to feel like I'm downplaying that at all. That's real. And that's why I'm kind of setting this stuff out for you guys, because I'm hoping that if you sort of listen it and have more buckets, you'll feel more of a sense of control over this. You'll feel like they just can't get you the minute they want to, right? Because I remember what it felt like to never feel safe. And I don't want anybody else feeling that way. And that includes Lindsay Ellis and those people that said I'm not being sensitive to her sexual assault. That is an absolute straw man of what I said. I find it offensive. I find that in bad faith. I spent a year in PTSD treatment. I don't like to say I have PTSD because that implies ongoing symptomatic, and it's more like, oh, okay, I'm starting to feel like I need to take a pause for a minute. I know what to do about it. But somebody in that state, like I see Lindsay Ellis in, that she is profoundly not okay, that is more important than her stupid opinions on something. However, that does not give her the right to just get away with making stupid opinions that hurt people. They say they hurt them, and her followers don't give a shit. Very different extremes. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. But, you know, there's a shining example of that is not a good faith criticism. That is an abusive statement. Claiming that someone is being insensitive to someone's trauma when they took steps to precisely be that, while still be like, you know, there's her ideas, and then there's her as a person. And you know, when I know, no matter in how bad a mood I'm in, no matter how low I'm feeling, no matter how vulnerable I'm feeling, if I take a big swing online, people have the right to criticize me. And it's not just, you know, oh, she's having a bad day, be nice to her. I don't know of a single dude on the internet who gets that, so I'm not going to ask for it. You know, take that benevolently sexist shit and get it away from me. No, that doesn't help anyone long term. All that means is that you can never expect someone to be accountable ever, because the minute they go, I'm traumatized, then they're not accountable for anything they do. And as somebody who was in that place once, that is not helping the person. That is not helping the people around them. They are going to spiral, and the trauma is going to get more and more and more profound. And that's when we get into things like self-harm. And I do not want anybody to get there, no matter how shitty I think their takes are, no matter how terrible a human being I think they are. And I am not saying Lindsay Ellis is a terrible human being. I'm just really hammering down I don't wish that on my worst enemy. I don't want anybody to live in that sort of self-torture. And that means going, hey, this is a person who is showing intense signs of not okayness because their arguments don't make any fucking sense. If you think that is insensitive, take a good hard look at yourself, because you are facilitating an abuse cycle. You are letting a person just spiral because your entertainment and your sense of being powerful at any given moment and your white knighting and your personal crusade is more important than that person is a human being. And that is at the core of all of this online bullshit. Some people are going to fall from grace, and they deserve it, right? And sometimes mountains get made out of molehills. And you know what? If you don't take that mountain and turn it into a goddamn volcano, people eventually forget about it. I talked about that happening myself. You know, there are some things people still dog me about, and I'm like, whatever. This is just somebody who wants to hate me. There's nothing I can do about it, right? But there aren't that many things like that. You know, there are some people on Kotaku in Action who just hate my guts. And it's actually kind of comforting to go on there every so often and read it and go, yeah, that person still hates me. Okay. You know, the sun came up today kind of thing. It's like a stability in the world after a while. But that doesn't, you know, that doesn't mean anything. You know, that's different than some of the people on the other side of that whole fight who are still actively shit talking me to other people and denying me business opportunities. But again, there's nothing I can do about that. So I just have to keep moving forward, right? If you are ethical, if you show a pattern of accountability, which is why I set up the whole structure of Feedback Friday, which is why I do read the comments. And, you know, don't say, I don't check my mentions very often. I don't read the comments very often. No, I read them. Because if you don't read them, then they just become dumpster fires, right? If you're telling people, I don't read this, you are giving them an invitation to shitpost. Because who cares? Victimless crime. Nobody's gonna see it. Lottie, lolly, fuck, lots of bad words, right? Like, come on. Have some accountability, right? I also think it's incredibly important to, when possible, be kind to your critics that you think are acting in good faith. Some people just misunderstand something. In issues that are complex, when we're using a lot of jargon, when there's an ever-shifting vernacular, this is why I define certain terms. Different things mean different things to different people. Everybody's coming from their own perspective. And I think the worst thing you can do if you actually care about online harassment, online dogpiling, cancel culture, is to accuse anybody of being too sensitive. Who are you to say that? You don't know what they've been through. You don't know what they've been through that day, that week, that month. They may have a perspective that you could benefit from that you're missing out on because you just dismissed them. Why would you do that? It's one thing to say, you're not giving me anything here. You're being too vague. I don't understand the content of your criticism. But dismissing someone as, you're just being too sensitive? I'm going to make a hot take right here. That is the driver of a lot of the stuff that you see the left going on about white supremacy and diet Nazis and all this racism, sexism, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, everything is transphobic. At the core of it, it's a bunch of people who just hit that button, you're too sensitive. Don't do that. if you actually care about social change. If you don't care about social change, what ifs? At least you're being consistent, right? But you can't claim to be a progressive and then go, oh, they're just being too sensitive. It didn't mean that. It didn't, a solipsism. No. And it was pretty funny to see the number of people in the comments yesterday who are so deep in their own solipsisms that they didn't see the irony of committing a solipsism in comments about solipsistic thinking. But we're hitting the half-hour mark, and so it's time to come in for a landing. The only way through this, the only way to alleviate, that gripping fear of cancel culture, which again, I am not telling anybody they're being too sensitive about that. I get it, okay? And I hope that I have my own fear that some of the things that have happened to me are making other people afraid. And that's the last thing I want. I really want to set an example of someone, yeah, I eat a lot of shit, but that is not what defines me. It's been especially bad of late, I'll admit. But that's not what defines me. I want the fun stuff, fairy god boobies and dancing ponies and stuff like that. That at the end of the day, and, just making people think, talking about stuff, generating a dialogue. I don't want people to have their primary takeaway of my stuff of, oh, she has it so rough. Things are rough for everybody right now, man. Like, yes, there are specificities of the thing. I have it rough, but I don't think we should get into that game right now, because all that does is make people throw up walls and become afraid that they're the only one that doesn't matter. And the minute somebody feels like they don't matter, they start behaving irrationally and lashing out. So, it doesn't do much good. What I'd like is to tell you what we know works from other circles. It's basically nerd culture has a management problem. Nerd culture does not really have influencers everywhere, but there really aren't many thought leaders. And because we don't really work on engines of respect in these industries like we should, no one's fault so much as it's still a fairly young industry. And so that respect will build as, a maturation process happens. And, it will be in pockets, right? Like, you can probably think of somebody you watch online whose opinions you respect even when you don't agree with them. That's not the same as watching somebody because they're entertaining. That's you respect someone's process enough to go, I don't agree, but they're probably coming from a valid place. I do think it is the responsibility of content creators to provide a place to handle and respond to good faith criticism, even when it's angry. Because it's easy to say, I'm not talking about the people who are criticizing in good faith and then make an hour and 40-minute video about your haters. But you know what you're not doing when you do that? You're not paying attention to your good faith critics that you can actually learn from. And you can't avoid bad faith criticism forever. Sometimes you do have to address it because it just gets ridiculous. But you can't spend all your time focusing on bad faith criticism like so many people do, especially so many women online. And maybe I only see the women because it drives me nuts and I don't want to be that way. But if you spend all your time on the bad faith contingent, what do you think's going to grow? What do you think you're going to get more of? The thing you pay attention to, the thing you give oxygen to, the thing you give light and heat to. It sounds so counterproductive when you put it that way, right? But that is the standard for the internet. People raging against their haters. Why? Because drama gets a ton of clicks? Great, but what's that doing for your mental health? And that's a topic for tomorrow on Wellness Wednesday that I will be talking about. The difference between, loss of job, loss of status, and the loss of mental health, and, that they're not the same thing. And I think we probably should be paying more attention to that mental health part. But this is about terms and different things. And, sometimes bad faith actors just gotta go. Because if we're not rooting out the bad faith actors with evidence, obviously, in due process, they're the ones that run the show, because they're the ones that get power, because they are bad faith actors and they're bullies and they use that social capital to do shitty things. If we don't start taking the reins back, then yes, we are sitting back and letting the things we're afraid of just become self-fulfilling prophecies. We have to take the agency and go, we do not judge people by their opinions here. We judge people by their behavior. If you're asked to stop and you don't, you're gone. I don't care how right you think you are. The best way to show you're right is to treat other people's right. Right? Treat other people right, not other people's. Respect other people's rights, and you seem more right. There we go. I'm getting a little too slogany here, so I'm going to stop. But I hope you guys get what I'm getting at here, which is I want to fight less about terminologies, and I want to spend more time making this community, at least this little pocket of the internet, right? A place that people can just relax. And one of the ways I'm going to do that is not giving the oxygen, light, and heat to the people that pull the mean girl, I demand an apology, this sort of thing. I'm hoping for an apology, and so on and so forth, like without telling me what for. Like, if you want an apology from someone, how about telling them what the issue is instead of just, I didn't like it. Right? Use your words, because I'm not going to reward the shame tactics. I'm not going to reward the gaslighting. I'm not going to reward the abuse. I'm going to spend my time on the people who can put a fucking sentence together and make a cogent argument. Because I'm telling you, again, some of those people, when they first came here, were just bundles of swear words. And I admit some of them are my favorite people in commenters, just because of how I know give them a little love and they'll change is a cliche, but to actually see it, to actually give people a space where they do feel listened to, what a difference it can make sometimes. That means, however, coming down hard on the people who engage in abusive tactics. Now, just because you engage in abusive tactics every so often does not make you an abusive person, but I'm still going to stomp all over the tactics, because if I don't reward the people who are coming at things in good faith. Makes sense? All right, makes sense. If you like this sort of thing, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching, and thanks for commenting.